thought about this. We've been talking about so much about how this is the fuel and the power of our lives as Christians. This is the root. This is the foundation of who we are as believers, the gospel message. But then the question becomes, if this is the power and the foundation of who we are as believers, why is it that we struggle so much with receiving the gospels? I mean, this is the third time that the disciples as a whole group, there's another group that received it a fourth time, but this is the third time that he has told them what is to happen. This is the third time that he has told his disciples of the gospel message. The first time, Peter grabbed Jesus by the collar and said, "No way," and he rebuked Jesus Christ. When Jesus told him back in Mark chapter 8, he says, "I'm going to die, I'll be buried, I'll raise again," and he grabbed him by the shirt collar and he says, "No way." And Peter began to rebuke Jesus Christ. The second time, back in chapter 9, when Christ shared the gospel message that he would die, he would be buried, he'll raise again on the third day, the disciples said, "Well, who among us is the greatest?" Every time they've heard the gospel, the attention turned back to them. Christ here in the gospel is not telling them a fairy tale story. He's not telling them a story of some kind of future event just to show them how smart he is. What he's telling them is the power of Christ, the humility of Christ, and the love of Christ. That's the gospel message. The gospel message that we serve a risen Savior who has such humility that he would die for each one of us. The power of the gospel message is that Christ loves us so much. I mean, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. But not just his power, not just his love, not just his humility, but his power. The God who raised Christ from the dead also dwells in you. For those of us who walk with Christ, the gospel message is our framework of how we now live in humility with other people. We love one another because of the gospel. We don't love one another because all people are easy to get along with. We don't love one another because people don't sometimes accidentally reach their hand into our pocket and steal $5. That's not why we love people. We don't love people because they don't ever come to our jobs and find stories and cook up stories and get us demoted and have us, hemmed in on our job. That's not why we love people. We love people because Christ has demonstrated a love toward us. And he tells us now in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 that we are now to no longer regard people according to the flesh. We're now concerned about the spirit of man, the soul of man. So it's not what you have done to me. It's not that someone lied to you. People lie. And Paul says, I can't be offended by that because you know what? There was one time in my life that I lied to. We've got to get beyond what people have done to us. There's no asterisk in here. It doesn't say the gospel is the love of Christ and we do it only on the days when people are kind. We are to love one another because Christ first loved us.